Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster, my good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Wednesday, 19th of June, 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news, we've got sport and business and travel updates on the newsmakers in person. This evening, inefficient schools are too valuable to close, says the Minister. Bus Vannin carried 225,000 passengers during TT. £96,000 for the carer strategy. Should an electric pet collar be legal here? And Captain Carter talks about being an MBE.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Dave Moore.
Faster Mai, the Council of Ministers is expected to formulate new policies in response to predicted housing demand. Tynwald's approved a document which looks into the Isle of Man's home property requirements from now until 2041. Honkin MHK Julie Edge is criticising a new carers strategy, labelling the £96,000 allocated to tackling challenges faced by those in a caring role as disingenuous. The Department of Health and Social Care hopes funding will enable it to ramp up awareness campaigns, improve access to information and train healthcare professionals. 6% of flights due to operate through Ronsley Airport during April were cancelled. Figures issued by the Civil Aviation Authority show of the 776 scheduled Isle of Man services, 48 failed to take to the air. Elsewhere, a baby girl has died after being bitten by the family pet dog in Coventry. The animal's been put down, but police don't think it was a dangerous breed. A YouGov poll predicts the Conservatives will have the fewest MPs in the party's history, with Labour on course to win a 200-seat majority. The Liberal Democrats are projected to increase their representation too, while the SNPs could slip. And the number of migrants crossing the English Channel yesterday was the highest in a single day of the year so far. 882 people reached the UK in 15 small boats. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Dave. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, no wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is smooth or slight, and the weather this evening dry with high clouds, some hazy sunshine, and a light variable breeze down to 10 through the night. For Thursday, Jardine, dry with sunny periods in a light southwest wind, high temperature 17. Dry overnight into Friday, minimum 12. And for Jehenya, dry and cloudy and a moderate southwest wind up to 16 degrees. Patchy light rain early Friday evening. Sunset this evening is 5 to 10. High tide is 17 minutes before 11. Sunrise in the morning at 4:45. Low water 11 minutes past 5. And the morning high water at 6 minutes past 11.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
The Education Minister says inefficient primary schools are too valuable to their communities to close. It's after an independent report recommended rationalising 8 schools, which would save £3.6 million. But Daphne Kane MHK says other factors need to be considered.
It was very welcome to have the review, and I think this is a great opportunity now for the department and for the island to look to the future structure and provision of education to serve our island for the next 10 years or more. But on that specific point regarding the 8 schools listed as the most inefficient, they're not inefficient. It's no big surprise to me that if you make schools bigger, put more pupils into a single space, and you have single form entry or 2 form entry, that you will reduce the cost compared with smaller rural schools serving their community. But we're not any town in the UK. We are the Isle of Man, and we have to develop a suitable education system to serve our island. So no, I could not support the closure, the merging or the rationalisation of smaller primary schools purely on the basis that they need to have 100 or more pupils. But absolutely, we can't say we mustn't take hard decisions because we don't have the money magic tree. We don't have endless funding, however much we feel should be put into education in certain areas. So the department, my response to it is great report, thought, great opportunity to look to the future of education, but smaller schools serving their community should not close purely because they are reduced numbers and then have all the disruption to a community of small children travelling long distances to attend school, and that has its own issues over climate, over the transport to get them there. But actually, while the provision and education outcomes remain strong in those schools, why would we change that?
Isle of Man Transport says its TT figures were terrific despite a small drop in passenger numbers compared to 2023. The full story with Sian Cowper.
Bus Vannin carried 225,024 passengers during the racing fortnight, which it says is over 44% above normal demand when schools are open. However, that's down compared to TT last year, when the bus service reported having more than 226,000 passengers. The busiest day of the period this year was Monday the 3rd of June, when buses transported 20,187 passengers. That's down almost 500 compared to the busiest day last year. The operator says the fortnight was terrific, thanking its staff for working tirelessly to support local residents and visitors during a very demanding period. Throughout this year's TT, fans were encouraged to use public transport where possible, particularly when wet conditions forced the closure of car parks at the grandstand. Special bus services ran throughout the races to take fans to some of the busiest locations around the TT course, while an information centre to help tourists find their way around on buses was in operation on Lord Street, which passengers told Manx Radio was a welcome addition.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
Fastermide, 23 minutes now before 6 this Wednesday evening on the island. The Chief Minister's announced he's due to take a magnifying glass to tax thresholds, the cost of sea travel, and examine public sector headcount with a view to finding areas that could be more efficient. But it seems unclear what any review of headcount could mean for those in the public and civil service.
I am today tasking the Chief Executive Officer and his Chief Officer team to undertake an efficiency review into headcount and delivery across central government departments and to report back in November. There are key streams of works that will be needed to achieve this. Firstly, the public reporting of headcount in the public sector has for far too long been a matter of confusion. The Operational Performance Board is very conscious of this matter, and we are seeking greater transparency and discipline in this area. Secondly, the Chief Executive Officer will be asking each department and board to present a paper detailing how their department can achieve efficiencies and cost reductions, outlining their plans to deliver savings and the impacts of such. The resulting proposals will be analysed carefully and the impacts assessed with a view to understanding what reprioritisation of services may be available for the Council of Ministers to consider. This will also provide a platform for Council to consider what scope for reform to elements of the public service may be available. This will also align with the Chief Executive Officer's plans to take the digital strategy and refocus it into a customer and digital strategy with renewed emphasis on delivering a better service for the public.
Are we talking about headcount reduction and are we talking about redundancies?
The Honourable Member has made a long-term habit of starting hares running when there are none indeed to start. First of all, the Chief Executive Officer did meet with the union this morning just to inform them that I would be making this statement today with union heads.
The Department of Health and Social Care has allocated £96,000 to deliver initiatives in the Carers Strategy, which hopes to tackle challenges faced by those with caring responsibilities. The Minister, Laurie Hooper MHK, says it'll include awareness campaigns, improving access to information and training for healthcare professionals.
Emotionally, it can also be incredibly difficult to witness the decline of a loved one's health and independence. Statistics suggest that perhaps 3 in every 5 of us will become a carer. For some of us, the role of caring is something we may need to provide more than once during our lifetime. Despite misconceptions, anybody at any stage in their life can find themselves needing to fulfill a caring role. This includes young carers, young adult carers and older carers. Stats from the Isle of Man Census Report 2021 show that there are 4,869 carers over the age of 10 years old providing care or support to someone living with a long-term illness, condition or disability in the Isle of Man. We think this number may be underrepresentative of the reality. As I mentioned before, a lot of carers don't see themselves as such, and so the census numbers could very well be underreported. Of these numbers, though, 2,112 are providing over 20 hours of care per week. 1,699 provide more than 35 hours of care a week. 1,396 provide over 50 hours of care per week. Nearly 600 carers aged 65 and over are providing 50 hours of care a week. 25 young carers between the age of 10 and 19 reported providing between 10 and 19 hours of care a week. And there were 16 children responsible for providing more than 50 hours of care a week. It goes without saying that the contribution this adds to our society is invaluable. The magnitude is difficult to comprehend. But without carers, our health and social care system would become overwhelmed with the pressure to provide levels of domiciliary care, community health care and residential and nursing bed placements to meet this demand.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
A public consultation's come to the conclusion that using an electric collar on a dog or cat should not be an offence on the Isle of Man. Amy Griffiths with the full story.
The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture was asking whether the use of these collars would cause unnecessary harm and suffering to the animals. It wanted to know if the public thought we should follow in the footsteps of England and Wales. Any ban or regulation would mean introducing secondary legislation to the Animal Welfare Act that came into effect on the 1st of this month. Nearly 700 unique responses were received to the consultation, which asked whether 6 scenarios should be offences. The large majority of people believed attaching e-collars that either emit distracting puffs of air or non-aversive behaviour-changing pheromones or chemicals or deliver a noise or vibration should not be an offence. Almost 80% of respondents didn't think attaching an electric collar to a dog or cat should be illegal. The only point that seemed to divide people was whether it should be an offence to use e-collars that emit a harmful or poisonous gas. Nearly 47% of respondents said that should be an offence, but a small majority of 53% disagreed. DEFA says it's aware there are significant concerns about the use of electric collars on dogs and cats and will do more work to explore this area further.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes now before 6 o'clock, Telecom's tower company Helios Towers has announced a secondary placing of shares in which stakeholders New Light Partners and RIT Capital Partners sold a combined stock of £43.2 million worth of stock, causing the share price to fall today. New Light and RIT, which have not sold any shares in Helios Towers since the company's IPO in 2019, sold 37.6 million shares in total at 115p each. The placing reduced their stakes to 13.2% and 3.2% respectively. Helios Towers said the seller's intentions with this transaction is to provide additional liquidity in the company's shares while remaining sizable shareholders in the company post-sale. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Chip maker Nvidia became the world's most valuable company after its share price climbed to an all-time high yesterday. It's now worth $3.34 trillion, £2.63 trillion sterling, with the price having nearly doubled since the start of this year. The stock ended the trading day yesterday nearly $136, up 3.5%, making it more valuable than fellow tech giant Microsoft. It overtook Apple earlier this month. The Californian company's meteoric rise has been fueled by its dominance of what analysts called the new gold or oil in the tech sector, the chips needed for artificial intelligence, AI. Speaking at an event in Copenhagen, the global head of business development for telco at Nvidia, Chris Penrose, predicted further growth in the sector, saying the generative AI journey is transforming business and telcos around the world, and we're only at the beginning.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks were mixed. The dollar was nursing losses after soft US retail sales data. Oil rose slightly and gold edged higher after that softer US retail sales data. And the numbers reported by Ramsey Crookall at the close in London: the FTSE 100 up almost 0.2%, 8,205. The DAX in Frankfurt down just over 1/3% at 18,067. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up just over 0.1%, 38,834. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is up 0.03%, 17,862. And the S&P 500 in Chicago up up 0.25%, 5,487. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling's trading at $1 27.2 cents, €1 18.3 cents, and 22 South African rand 85.6 cents. In commodities, gold fractionally down 0.05%, $2,328 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude's up just over 0.1% at $85.40.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crook all later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Steam Packet says it appreciates the importance of Sunday newspaper deliveries to the Manx community. That's after Ellen Vannin Fuels questioned whether they should continue selling Sunday newspapers because of the recent unreliability. Here's Manx Radio's John Moss.
It was, as you will recall, a windy winter and spring. A number of sailings were lost because of the weather, but there were also times when maintenance of steam packet vessels meant the papers couldn't be delivered on a Sunday. Up to recently, an alternative would have been to fly the newspapers in, but as pointed out by Carl Goff of distributors G.E. White's, a decision was taken by national newspaper publishers to no longer use aircraft to cover those days. They said it was due to the large increase in air freight costs. Mr. Goff said on those occasions a limited supply of Sundays were available on a Monday, and he said that was appreciated by those with prepaid subscriptions and home deliveries. The Steam Packet say they understand the importance of Sunday newspapers to the community, and they say we are dedicated to delivering them as consistently as possible. Something they do, they say, with all the goods delivered to sustain island life. They go on, the maintenance of our vessels is crucial to maintaining the highest standards of safety and service for our passengers and the transportation of essential daily freight, and they apologise for the inconvenience this may cause. They say a full list of scheduled non-sailings, such as planned maintenance, is provided to commercial customers at the start of the year in order for them to be able to plan ahead and make alternative arrangements where possible. The EVF, the Ellen Vannin Fuels suggestion as to whether the space they use for papers could be better used is just a suggestion. We have contacted them for further comment on that.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with tennis, a Manx pro competitor Billy Harris will make his Wimbledon debut next month after being selected for a wildcard place in the men's singles draw. It comes after the 29-year-old reached a career-high ranking of 162 earlier this week before winning his first match at the Queen's Club yesterday. That victory, his first at an ATP 500 event, is likely to see him ranked in the top 150 when rankings are updated next week. Harris will find out who he'll play in the first round at the All England Club when the draw is announced next Friday. He'll also feature in the men's doubles alongside fellow British player Liam Brodie. Isle of Man pro cyclist Max Walker has taken the silver medal in the men's elite time trial at the latest British National Road Championships this afternoon. Walker, who competes for the Astana Kazakhstan development team, finished the course in Catterick in 40 minutes and 35 seconds. He was only bested by Ineos Grenadiers' Joshua Tarling, who finished 1 minute and 14 seconds ahead of Walker to claim his second successive national time trial title. Completing the podium in third was Israel Premier Tech rider Ethan Vernon, who was a further 10 seconds back on Walker. For the Manxman, it's now back-to-back top three finishes after he claimed second overall at the ZLM Tour in the Netherlands earlier this month. Prior to that, he also took two stage victories and finished fourth in the point standings during the Tour of Japan in May. And in motorsport, Mike Brown and Ian Locker will once again contest the lightweight class at this year's Manx Grand Prix. The pairing will both ride Yamaha TZ250 machinery under the Laycock Racing banner. Both Brown and Locker have enjoyed big success in the lightweight MGP in recent times, having finished first and second respectively in both 2022 and 2023. Announcing the lineup on social media, the team says it can't put into words how happy it is to have the two riders on board. In the last 2 years, the team has operated with those two competitors under the name of Laylaw Racing. The change in name comes after team manager Eddie Laycock confirmed in January this year that his friend and sponsor Jerry Lawler was stepping back from the setup for personal reasons.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway. Next, it's the 6:30 EasyJet from Belfast International, 7:25 Loganair from Edinburgh, the 7:35 EasyJet from London Gatwick, and the 7:55 Loganair from Liverpool. Everything is fine where that's concerned. Last one in tonight, Loganair's 10 to 9, London City, showing on time. Outbound The 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool's on time. The patient transfer outbound, that is. 7 o'clock EasyJet to Belfast International. The 5 to 8 Loganair to Edinburgh, and the 5 past 8 EasyJet back to London Gatwick are all showing on time. On the roads north of Ballasalla, temporary lights at the bottom of the Ballamoda near Silverdale for resurfacing, and temporary lights also in Ballasalla on the main road near the new housing estate for water main connection work. In Douglas, temporary lights on Alexandra Drive at the Devonshire Road Albany Road junction for gas main repairs, and some closures in phases close by Devonshire Road and Devonshire Crescent. Hillside Avenue is closed for adjacent office window replacement to Circular Road, and part of Switzerland Road is closed for building work till November. Still got those lights on Vicarage Road at Stevenson's Way, Farm Hill for water main replacement, and temporary lights on the main road Foxdale between Mines Road and the Shoulder Road for drainage work. Temporary lights on the bottom end of Johnny Watterson's Lane in Tremote for a new Puffin crossing, and lights on Liverpool Arms by Baldrine for work on the pavements, and phase closures at Ballabooey Road in Peel for water main work. Temporary lights at Douglas Road Corner in Kirkmichael for cable laying. Lights on Ramsey Road in Laxey at the Minorca Hill junction. Lights at Sulby Bridge also. Phase closures at Ballakilfurrick Road for water main work, and phase closures at the Starvey Road for water main work too.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
The captain of the parish of London says being made an MBE is an honour. Stephen Carter was named in the King's Birthday Honours, having served on the London Commissioners for a number of years.
It is. My understanding is when you're honoured with these awards, you don't know who has proposed you or why you have been proposed. I have, over many, many years, I spent quite a long time on London Parish Commissioners, and in fact I only stepped down from that because we had bought the Carina that we used to run, and it was obvious that we were going to have to do quite a lot of evening charters and things in the summer on it to make it pay, and I didn't feel that it was right, that I wouldn't be able to give my full attention to my duties on the commissioners, and it was unfair on the other commissioners if you weren't going to be there all the time, and so I stepped down for that reason, and I did enjoy my time on London Parish Commissioners, and I had 2 terms as chairman, and I think that in those days we ran the parish and the finances of the parish very prudently, and everything, the bins got emptied, the lights were on. We did various things, like most authorities. We put the Millennium Clock up. We made a sort of a nice garden in Baldzine, and we did all sorts of other things.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years. This is Manx Radio.
The amount that the Isle of Man spends on education per child is worrying, according to a former education minister. An independent report found the average spend per pupil in other Crown dependencies is almost twice as high as here. Julie Edge, MHK, believes her thoughts on prioritising government money may have contributed to her sacking from the role.
That was quite alarming. That wasn't actually part of any original discussions with the organisation, but it was pushed for because I felt that Council of Ministers did need to understand the difference in the spend. But we also need to understand the differences in our education systems. Isle of Man's fully inclusive. That's why we've got an additional educational needs, additional funding required, because we're doing a fully inclusive education system. Do I agree with that? Yes, I do, but you've got to fund it. No point shying away. If you've got a policy and it's the way you want to go, you've got to fund it.
And surely that makes it worse that additional educational needs in these other areas are funded separately.
It is, and it's certainly decreased since I was working within education, and obviously I'd put ideas forward as to where the funding could come from, where the additional funding could come from, without making significant changes in education. Clearly they might not have been liked. We've got massive funds for climate change. £40 million went into that. It's not getting utilised. We've heard that they're funding people to be employed for 2-year contracts out of a climate change fund. Utilise what funds we have, divide them up correctly. Climate change is a target for years and years away. Make sure that funding's allocated. And, it's a suggestion I made. Maybe that's why we have a new minister.
In your estimation, then, this is the reason you were sacked?
Well, there's many reasons. We're debating swimming pool. I don't actually really know, to be honest. I've done an amazing job as the response I got from the Chief Minister on the day, but clearly he wasn't comfortable with some of the challenges that I was putting forward. But wouldn't any minister challenge for additional funds for an education department, all of our young people and the staff? I certainly would, and I will continue to do so.
The motor vessel Manxman safely into Douglas Harbour, departing this evening at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at 11:30. The way members of Legislative Council are elected could be about to change. New reports made recommendations after a review of the procedure was requested last year. Amy Griffiths with that story.
The Legislative Council is primarily a scrutiny body which reviews new laws. At the moment, potential MLCs need the support of at least 2 members of the House of Keys. However, it's said that this has meant former MHKs are more likely to be elected as they're more well known. Now, though, the Standing Orders Committee is proposing to make it more like a conventional recruitment process. It's suggesting all candidates should now fill in an application form and submit a CV to the Secretary of the House for consideration without having to make contact with any MHKs first. If that application was valid, they'd then be invited to a meet and greet event where they'd have the opportunity to meet members and try and garner support in a more formal way. Only then would viable candidates be able to seek proposers and seconders. The proposals need to be debated by the House of Keys, although it's not known when that will be yet. If agreed, though, they'll have immediate effect. It would mean this system will be in place for the next scheduled MLC elections in March 2025 or sooner in the event of a casual vacancy arising.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore. Producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Howie Kane's here with the arts programme Spotlight. Simon Clark and Greatest Hits at 6:30. Ernie Thorne with the opera at 9, and Update returns tomorrow evening, Thursday evening at 5:30.
WINT